Blayne, let's go to Fayetteville as the Arkansas Razorbacks will hit the field for spring ball. I am fascinated to watch how does this work with Sam Pittman and Bobby Petrino. Bobby P is back in Fayetteville, baby. Taylen Green, that era begins under center, the Boise State transfer. But Hog fans are holding on, Blayne, for dear life that the Sam Pittman era is going to work. And the reason is because Bobby Petrino is back. And this is, Blayne, this is such a fascinating thing because, dare I say it, could we come, life comes full circle, and Sam Pittman's replacement, if things go south, is on the staff in Bobby. Like, it's just going to be wild to me. So excited to hear about how the offense is going. Like, there's not going to be probably a coordinator in the SEC I'm more excited to hear from than Bobby Petrino. Just he's a fascinating guy. You know what I mean? He's an offensive guru, was at A&M last year. That thing with Jimbo was a complete mess. But I'm so happy he's back in Fayetteville. And I really hope he can be the answer. But thoughts on Bobby P being back in Fayetteville and just like this dynamic with Pittman and Bobby Petrino is obviously they come into a year where Pittman is trying to save his job.
Oh, yeah. But I will tell you this. I think looking at their schedule, I know we're just talking about schedules. Mm-hmm. We're not just talking about schedules. We're talking about spring. I think they could open up the year 3-1, maybe 4-0. Just depends on how Bobby P's calling things with Taylen Green there. And I know we're going to get to him in a minute. Mm-hmm. I think Arkansas addressed the needs that they needed over there at offensive line, especially at left tackle. And we'll get to Florida later, but Florida is taking a guy in Devin Manuel who struggled at left tackle for Arkansas last year. Now they get Fernando Carmona, who was the best tackle other than Taylen Green, was the best tackle in the transfer portal, in my opinion, a guy from San Jose State that had a PFF grade. I know PFF's not the end-all, be-all, PFF grade up in the 80s, but this dude, I watched his film, and to be 6'5", 330, he absolutely can bend, he can strike, he is nasty in the run game, and he is able to move his feet and protect in the pass game. I think that's going to be big for a guy like Taylen Green. Taylen Green also has the wheels, and there's a guy that Bobby Petrino coached that he's done a few good things in his career, like Lamar Jackson just won another MVP. So I think Taylen Green, he's that kind of exciting player. Like he makes some dynamic runs. I'm telling you, he is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. He's got to develop as a passer. I think he's the low 60s, the best he's ever been pass completion. And Bobby Petrino will have to help clear things up for him. But I'm excited to see that Arkansas offensive line's improvement because that was their downfall last year. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't protect KJ Jefferson. And now he says, bump this. I'm going to play over there with the Gus Bus over at UCF. They got a brand new center in Addison Nichols who comes over from Tennessee, didn't play a whole lot at Tennessee. Josh Braun returns. They got Kayshawn Blackstock that comes over from Michigan State. So 2 transplants there at tackles, but they got Tykeus Crawford coming back. I think that's going to be a big improvement. And then Jaquindon Jackson, who comes over from Utah. A Utah running back now is going to bring the thunder. He's going to bring the hammer because Kyle Whittingham is he's just that kind of dude. And, Jaquindon Jackson coming in there is going to help him out as well. So these transfers and new OC for Arkansas, it's going to be exciting. And then the receivers return for the most part.
And Blayne, you mentioned the offensive line, right? Arkansas was one of those teams last year and there were a lot in the SEC where you look at the teams at the bottom of the league, the ones really struggling, they had troubles on the offensive line. Like there were a lot of teams last year, I thought, for whatever reason that struggled on the line of scrimmage. Arkansas was no exception. Now they begin life after KJ Jefferson, after Rocket Sanders, who's now at South Carolina. Taylen Green, does he not feel like KJ Jefferson 2.0 to a degree? I'm putting all the respect on KJ's name, but well, I mean, they like the same build. You mentioned he's a great runner, struggles with the football. Like blind resume test, that feels like KJ Jefferson to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a little bit better. I say this better of an athlete. I think, this guy's 6'6", 221. And, KJ's got a few more pounds on him in terms of being maybe 15, 20 pounds heavier at different times. But when it comes down to it, Taylen Green's got some acceleration to him. I think KJ Jefferson actually may be a little bit better of a passer. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think he's got to develop it, and Bobby Petrino is going to have to do some things to make it easy for him early in terms of his development as a passer. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the athleticism and being able to put the ball in their hands and say, hey, go get a couple yards, I think Taylen Green is obviously capable of doing that. But it doesn't matter if he's Superman with a cape on his back. If they can't defend people from just coming through like a sieve, if they can't block it, over there in the pass protection, and they can't get things going on the run blocking as well for Jaquindon Jackson, for Isaiah Augusta, all these guys they have in the backfield, then it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I think Taylen Green has that piece. And like I said, I am confident in the offensive line. I think Fernando Carmona was a great pickup. I think Addison Nichols is going to be a tremendous. Addison Nichols at center not only will win in terms of physical, but his mental acuity is something that is going to be better. This kid is borderline genius. Okay. He is a very, very, very smart young man. Comes out of Greater Atlanta Christian, I believe in Georgia. So, I mean, he's got a good background. I think he's going to be a big pickup there for Arkansas.
And you mentioned those additions on the offensive line, Blayne. And, I think if anybody can get it fixed, it's Sam Pittman, right? The boss hog himself. I mean, this guy, he's an offensive line guy. He's an offensive line guru. I was shocked to see what we saw last year on the field. And I think the spring game, again, fans ask themselves, what can we take away? It just needs to look the part, right? And I think developing depth is going to be key this spring. But I think, do you win when you get off the bus? Is the unit starting to gel? Is the unit starting to come together? Are you finding the best five? When it comes, Blayne, to one player you're excited to hear about, who's that guy for you? I'll start. I'll go linebacker Xavier Sori. And again, this is probably a name you're familiar with because he's a Georgia transfer. You lose Pooh Paul Jr. to the transfer portal. He goes to Ole Miss. Who's going to fill in that void? Sori, a guy, again, I think highly talented. He's going to have an opportunity this spring, I think, to emerge, to shine. I think there's going to be a battle at that linebacker spot. Who is the guy you're most excited to hear about this spring out of the Arkansas camp?
I'm telling you, I love Fernando Carmona. That left tackle, if he can just solidify that position for them where they really struggled last year, I think that's going to be a huge, huge deal for Arkansas going forward. This guy had his own burrito named after him out there in a couple of restaurants out there in San Jose. Okay, one of only two guys out there on San Jose States to have an NIL deal. All right, he's not shy from marketing himself, from being out there, a charismatic guy, but he also gets it done on the field. I think Fernando Carmona is going to be great, fit right in there with Sam Pittman.
And Blayne, wanted to mention this before we get off of Arkansas. You mentioned the transfer portal, how pivotal it was. Arkansas 109th in returning production, just ahead of Bama, 46%. So again, a new look Hogs team, replacing QB1, replacing RB1, replacing a lot of the offensive line. But after you go 4-8, Blayne, I don't think that can be such a bad thing after all.